This is the gruesome, horrifying story of an axe-wielding murderer who killed 8 people inside the Moore's house, including 2 adults and 6 children. It was 1912 in America, in Villisca, Iowa. The town was small and had a population of 2,400 people. This is all about the house number 508 and the residents inside. The parents, Josiah, aged 43, Sarah Montgomery, 39, and their 4 kids, Herman Montgomery, 11, Mary Catherine, 10, Arthur Boyd, 7, and Paul Vernon, 5. Josiah was a business manager and his wife Sarah would look after the kids at home. It was evening of June 9th when Mary Catherine Moore had invited Ayanna May, 8 years old, and Lena Gertrude Stillinger, 12, to spend the night at the Moore's house. That evening, the visiting girls and the Moore's family attended the Presbyterian Church, where they participated in the Children's Day program which Sarah had arranged. After the program ended at 9:30 p.m, the Moores and the Stillinger sisters walked to the Moore's house, arriving between 9:45 and 10 p.m. Everyone was tired, so they all decided to go to bed as it was already quite late. This is when everything takes a turn for the worst. A stranger slowly opened the unlocked door. They kept the door unlocked as it was known to be a very safe town. As the ominous person crept through the house, not long after entering the house, he spotted an oil lamp placed on top of a table. They lit the lamp. It barely carried enough light for one person. Carrying a lamp in his right hand and wielding an axe in his left, he approached the stairs. Without realizing the 2 sleeping girls downstairs, they continued up the stairs. They crept past the children's room and smashed into Mr. and Mrs. Moore's bedroom, and killing both the parents instantly. The murderer then quickly made his way to the children's room upstairs, and then lastly rushed downstairs to the last room. On this night, this person committed some of the most disgusting murders in history. Once they had caused their damage, they grabbed the keys, locking the door behind them. It was the next day, June the 10th, and one of the neighbours had become concerned about the family, as Mary Peckham was close to the family, and she knew that they would often come out and do their morning chores in the garden. This is when she realised something was up, and tried to knock on the door, but no one had answered. She then decided to call Ross Moore, Josiah's brother. Ross slightly panicked, and rushed down to the house, knocking on the front door, and shouted through the letterbox, hoping for a response, but was met with a deafening silence from the house. After hearing nothing, he unlocked the door with the spare front key he had brought with him. Ross entered the house and approached the guest room. He cracked the door open, as his eyes widened as he saw Ayanna and Lena Stillinger laying in their pool of their own blood. He instantly ran out the house and demanded Peckham to call Hank Horton. This was Villisca's primary peace officer. Horton then came up to house 508 and confirmed the murders. He had also found out that the killer had set up a ritual. He had covered the Moore's parents' heads with sheets and the Moore's children's faces with clothing. They also had gone throughout the house, covering the windows with a mixture of clothes and towels. He then decided to randomly place a 2-pound piece of uncooked bacon from the fridge and place it in the living room, along with a keychain. As soon as the police had finished their investigating, the word of the murder had spread around the small town, and at least 100 horrid people explored through the crime scene. One of the people went as far as taking a bit of Josiah's skull as a keepsake. So the first question you're asking is, well, who did it? Firstly, the investigation was instantly made a lot harder for the police due to the public interfering with the investigation by looking around the house. The first suspect was a man named Frank F. Jones. He was considered the least suspecting person linked to the case. However, it was thought that Frank wanted revenge after Josiah left working for him and going to work for John Deere. It was also a coincidence that Josiah was allegedly having an affair with Jones's daughter, but this was never confirmed. The second suspect was William Mansfield, who was also a previous serial killer. He had took the life of his wife, infant child, and in-laws. These murders were also thought to be carried out using an axe in Powler, Kansas. This happened 4 days before the Villisca murders. It was thought by the detectives that Mansfield was hired by Jones to kill the Morse family. Detective Wilkerson managed to make the grand jury open a case on Mansfield, as he thoroughly believed that he committed these crimes during 1916 and later on through an alibi, but not only let Mansfield be free, he also sued Wilkerson for $2,225. The third suspect, Henry Lee Moore, he wasn't related to the Morse family. There was a federal investigator who claimed to have solved the Villisca murders, and not only that, but he had also declared that he had discovered 22 other axe murders across America. Despite all these claims made against Henry Lee Moore, he was only convicted for 2 murders, the murders of his mother and grandmother, and was sentenced to 36 years, and was paroled in 1949. However, he was still never connected to the Villisca murders. Andy Sawyer was yet another suspect of the Villisca case. It was said that he was passing through the town at the time of the murders. The sheriff received a report from the Sawyer's employer about his strange behaviour, the reason being that he showed a great interest in the murders and would often sleep fully clothed while holding an axe, which was used for his work. Nothing ever came of this, but Sawyer was eventually arrested for sleeping on the streets in Iowa on the same night that the murders happened. The final murder suspect being Reverend George Kelly, who was arrested in 1917 due to sending numerous letters about the murders to the police and multiple family members of the victims involved in the Villisca murders. He had also been previously arrested for sending crude material through the mail. It was also known that he was held in a mental hospital in Washington, D.C. after his arrest in 1917. He was interrogated and later on confessed to the murders of the Villisca, but then decided to take a 180 and said that he didn't commit this crime. The first trial ended in a deadlock, which led to another case deciding that he was not guilty. This popular murder case was featured on the television series Most Terrifying Places in America and spoken on multiple podcasts and many other places. The house has now been turned into a tourist destination where people can book tours and even have opportunities to stay overnight at the house. Let us know in the comments who you think the murderer is, and would you stay at the house overnight?